Hello, I am Purple Thickman, and today we're going to be checking out Malice and Greed. So this is a roguelite. It's kind of a deck builder, and like a strategy game, turn-based. It's in early access right now. And you'll see, I'll go ahead and restart this run. I'm not doing anything with this run right now anyway. Continue. So there's a lot in this game. So this game leans on the roguelite and that each run is different, obviously. So like once you see we begin our run, we'll start with our main character, who we always have, and I believe the bounty hunter, the second person on our team, is also always one of the standard characters. And then you slowly build up your team as you fight through rooms. And the way that you gain team members is really unique. But let's talk about some of the stuff on here real quick. So we have Demon Form, which I can talk about a little later, but these are all of the different upgrades that this game has that are all purchasable and stay with you between runs. And Demon Form is basically a mechanic where you can sacrifice an ally, which we might see later on, to bring yourself back to life, powered up, basically for like one last hurrah to see if you can't, it's basically like a Hail Mary to finish a fight. Something that you'll probably run into more fighting bosses. Dimensional Tampering is also just upgrades, and you can see I have some upgrade materials that you get in the runs that hold over. Once you die, you can come out and upgrade things, and there's a ton of stuff here. More than I could explain right now. And builds and mantras is probably the most important thing, at least for me, because these really, really affect the way that you play the game. So you start out with Stab Wound, and some of the names for these are awesome. Ultra Beatdown, Sunburn, High Voltage. But this is what your character starts with, so you're picking your build for playing the game. And there's a bunch of different elements that you can start with. I only have Stab Wound and High Voltage right now, and I haven't even played High Voltage yet, but I am excited to check it out. But let's just get into a run and try to kind of explain things as they progress. So when you first start, you'll have, on each area of the map, you'll have a haven where you basically get a little upgrade, and you can also turn on or off Malice, which are little extra challenges that give you, if you beat the run, they adjust your victory conditions. So if I win this run, I'll get a couple more spin fragments, which are basically upgrade materials, and I'll get a crystal flower, which are the materials you use to buy builds and upgrade builds. So I normally go with the one where you can't. Anarchy's pretty good. I haven't really looked at all the other ones, but we'll just ignore them for now. And then you have your initial upgrade, so you can either have 3 common items. There is one here, it is Glass Knuckles. This is a really good one where your next 3 common or elite battles, you can one-shot everybody, which is really nice. Not for the first area, because the first area isn't super hard, but area 2 or 3, Glass Knuckles is definitely worth it. Okay. I think we're going to go with Deadly Magnetism to get more upgrade materials. It's really good early on. And we also get a card. So for the card system, every ally has a certain number of attacks that they have. And they're unique to each enemy. You can slightly change them if you have Essence, which will change 2 attacks to 2 other things based on the type of essence you have, which you can see here. If I drop them in, there's the natural, and then if I had any of these essence, which I do not, I could change. You basically swap out attacks for other attacks. But our main character here just starts with 3, and then you can build up their arsenal however you want, really, based on these random drops that you get. And I have not played the electric class yet, so I'm actually going to have to read what a lot of these do. All right, so we have a passive, which are pretty much always useful. And you can see, if you just want a brief glance to kind of figure out what's good and what's not, they do say at the bottom, elite, rare, notable. There's commons. I actually think, yeah, we have commons and a rare. So passives are pretty much always nice. These are all passives, which is good. Fully protecting yourself from the beginning of a battle is nice. Protect basically nullifies one attack from an enemy. When an enemy deals non-chain damage, deal 3 gun damage to them. That's pretty good. That's basically like a Thorns passive. When you deal lightning damage to a unit, half the amount is restored to them as HP and dealt to them as ice. This is really useful because enemies have weaknesses that are based on types of damage. Thank you for the follow, Karma Cycle. I appreciate that. So having builds that are around split types of damage is really, really useful. And let's get into a battle so I can kind of show off the battle mechanics. Crystal Bolts also lets you double dip on plus attack. That's true. I haven't dug into like all of the different mechanics of the game yet, like building up. I think it's in rage that gives you plus attack and minus defense. There's a lot going on in this game that I need to get into a lot more. But let's talk about, so when you first encounter an enemy, the damage types that you can see right here will be question marks, and you have to figure out what enemies are weak to. But once you defeat them, you actually get to know everything that they're weak to. So you only have to kill an enemy once. You don't actually have to hit them with every single type of damage, which is really nice. I really appreciate that. It makes, the first time you encounter an enemy, it's like a little bit of trying to figure out, but after that, you know for certain, which is really nice. So this enemy is weak to gun, which we do not have available to us right now. We just have shock, which we'll go ahead and do here. They would also reflect magic, which we don't do, but thankfully we have somebody right here that can use gun damage. And then, as you can see down here, we have crystals. You get 1 crystal for each person on your team, up to a maximum of 4. And if you use an attack that is efficient, is what it's called, you'll only use half of a crystal, which lets you attack again. Or if you hit an enemy's weak point, you also get you use half of a crystal, which lets you move again, which is nice. So you can kind of, playing around enemies' weaknesses, one, it lets you do a little bit more damage, but it also lets you attack more often. And we have a guard. We can swap people out in our party if we need to. This guarding and swapping costs 1 crystal. We can't quite use Voltic Shock yet. Let's go ahead and do this. I think we win. Yes, here we go. So, when you win a battle, the last enemy to be killed is brought to this screen where you can do nothing, so you can abandon them, which, why would we do that right now? You can steal a skill from them, which is really, really useful to help build your character. You can only take skills that you have the appropriate energy class for. So right now we're a Dex technology build. So we can only take, these require, I think it's arcane. So we can only take gouge, or you can just abduct them and add them to your team, which is hilarious. I love that as a mechanic. This is really important. This is a crystal flower. These are like, I always go for these to get more builds. But I do want to have a full team for that. There's events. All right. A billboard advertising the second most popular beer begins speaking exceptionally loud. Yes, it is I. What dream shall I fulfill for the masses today? Okay, so these events typically give you... Oh, the flower battles scale to your team size. I did not know that. I've only fought them on full battle teams because they can be... I guess if you have a full team, they're a little rough. Not impossible, but definitely a little challenging. All right. So legendary items, you can only have one. I'm probably going to grab this. 2 random potential is a little chaotic. I actually do not know what the Akimbo Arcade does. I assume that it's just a fight where you can get like an enemy. But the legendary item is pretty useful. Firework. The first damage dealt by an ally each. Battles increased by 15. Yeah. Wow. And anytime you pick up an item after a battle, you can either take it, or if you don't like it, you can burn it to progress spin, which gives you one of the little in-game currencies to buy stuff with. And the world map is really unique. I really like this. So as you move, you unlock different areas, but you don't actually have to move from area to area. If an area is unlocked, you can just click it. So I could, even though technically I'm right here, I could click this elite fight. I could go to the flower, which is what I'm going to do. Or I could, you know, go from anywhere so long as it's unlocked on the map, which I really like. All right, so now that we know that you can get an enemy, it's... What I normally do is I try to look ahead at an enemy's skills if I don't know what they do, which these enemies I'm not super familiar with. I actually have not fought them yet, other than the Crystal Flower, which I think is weak to physical attacks, but this is kind of how you can build your team around either to fill in your weaknesses or to build towards a specific type of team, whether you want like a debuff team or something of that nature. So let's see what this guy does. Zombie, which is something that I haven't really built a team around yet. It lets you, if anyone dies, ally or enemy, they turn into a zombie, or they turn into a corpse that stays around. And if the corpse is killed, if it's an ally, they're permanently dead. They leave your team. If it's an enemy, it doesn't really do... It just means they can't be revived for the most part. But let's see what they can do. Bloodlust, so Hunt is really nice because if you kill somebody with Hunt, they do not leave a corpse. Lifesteal, Hunt and Cull. Cull instantly, it's basically an assassinate move. It instantly kills an enemy if they're at that HP or below. When an ally hunts a unit, the stolen HP will revive them. Nice, so that's good if you have somebody that's zombied, which this person can do. And then if somebody is fully zombied, they also generate a crystal, which they normally, if you zombie somebody, normally they can attack, which is convenient. Especially if your healer gets killed, because then they can revive themselves. Maim and Traumatize are pretty good. Well, Traumatize I haven't found super useful, but Maim is really good. It basically does 1 HP of damage anytime an enemy uses a skill, which is anytime they attack. And then we have basically a fire elemental here. They'll have, deal some fire damage. Burn, which does 1 damage. Burn, bleed, I believe freeze and shock are all just elemental versions of deal 1 damage per turn. Fully burn an ally and heal them. Pretty useful. Heals, I've noticed, are sparse among the available characters that you can get. There's like a fairy, I forget what it's called, but they're like the dedicated healer class that I've seen, and then any other heals you're gonna get like 1 heal on somebody like this. which is still useful. This is actually, the Flame Tug might be who I go for, especially to cover some fire, which I don't believe I have anything for. I have one for fire. The Plague Bat I didn't even look at. Bleed, Sicken, Bleed, Decay, and Sicken. So this is a very debuff heavy character here. Chef John is a good AoE healer. I saw Chef John in one of my elite fights, and I wanted to get that character, but I got wrecked pretty much immediately. It was 4 people. It was like Chef John. It was I think the Battle Rider, the electric enemy, and then 2 mages that I don't remember. But it was, I was not prepared. That was like my first run. They were like a +4 elite, and I got absolutely destroyed. But let's go ahead and take the flower out. All right. So some enemies can reflect. They can be immune, resistant, or weak. We found the reflect here. Okay, so they're weak to gun, which is good, because we can do gun damage with our main character eventually. Bleedy unit, so let's decay. 1 arcane damage, so basically bleed, but for, okay. Let's go with physical. I think, yeah, flowers are also weak to physical, which is nice. Another thing that I think is important to point out, if any of our characters turn into corpses, they'll be revived after the battle. The only way you can lose is if everyone on your team dies, and you choose not to go into demon mode, or can't for whatever reason, or if your character, which is Zindra, if their corpse dies, you also lose. All right, so immune to shock here, so I'm going to go ahead and start shocking the Skull Chaser here. So why not? And trying to take out the flower as fast as possible. And as you can see, like, we only have 3 turns, technically, or 3 moves. But because we're exploiting weaknesses, we can move many more times. I think off of 3 crystals, I'm getting 5 moves right now. And now we're going to get even more. So for the cards, you can see in the upper left-hand corner of each card how many crystals they take. But sometimes you also have to pay potential, which are they kind of act like mana. You build up 1 each turn, and you keep them up to your max, which is 5 for this character. But sometimes you can pay that potential to do, typically stronger attacks. Attacks that cost multiple crystals are normally pretty strong. We're gonna do that here. Yep, and see, we could hunt if we wanted, which would kill this flower and its corpse. Which we should actually be able to do right now. Here we go. We have a crystal flower, so this run is successful. And let's try to figure out what these other people are weak to. Some enemies I know have like no weaknesses. Some are just like resistant to like all kinds of stuff. They're like impossible to kill. I run into some strong enemies. But the thing that is probably the most important to get used to in this game, I've noticed, is all the different types of debuffs. There's so many debuffs available, from like all of the elemental bleed damage, stuff like expose, which actually makes attacking weaknesses stronger, hunt, which as I've mentioned earlier, makes an enemy not leave a corpse, You know, this guy can bleed, decay, and sicken. And they're very important to know what they all do. All right, and I just want to go ahead and add this person to my team so that we can have a full team now. Events pretty much always give you something, which is really nice. And you can see here we can actually gain potentials that we do not start with, which unlock more skills that we can end up getting on our character. Protagonists can pass their turn for free. That's pretty good. Passing can be important if you want to. Passing normally takes half a crystal, I believe. Yes, but if you want to get to somebody who has like an attack that takes 2 crystals, but an enemy is weak to, that's definitely useful. Here, so the Tinker Pixie is the creature I was talking about earlier that has like all the heals. They have an efficient heal, which is super useful, and it combos, which means you can use that and it won't end your turn, and it only costs half a crystal. And they have a normal heal and a revive. Super useful, like healer. They have a protect. They're pretty much like the healer class, and they have like an attack if you need them to do some damage. They can also zombie enemies. Ooh, and potentiate. I didn't know they could do that, but they're like a very good class to have around if you if you want to worry about any sort of healing. Trauma, like I've said, I haven't found super useful. It just, the enemy, if you negate their damage, they lose a crystal, but negating enemy damage, because I believe attack randomly, it's difficult to take advantage of compared to some of the other stuff that you can take. I think we're just going to go for the Pixie and probably maybe replace somebody on our team, or just have them in the wings. Weak to magic, weak to gun, weak to fire. So we'll focus the Zombor first, I guess. Do you want to take advantage of some of these weaknesses? Decay and bleed. Do you want to leave the fairy alive? The thing that makes trauma useful is -3 attack. A lot of bosses have skills that hit many times. Oh, yeah. That makes sense, because if you -3 someone's attack, if they're hitting for 0 damage, yeah. That does make sense. Again, it does still sound difficult to use to its full potential. It seems like you need a couple people on your team built around trauma to take advantage of it. But I can see how it'd be really useful in boss fights. In a previous run, I made it to the final boss. Thought I had a good team, and the final boss pretty much wrecked me all on its own. Just absolutely obliterated my team. Oh yeah, weak to magic. And that's really it. So we can go ahead and get a combo efficient. You can see we have 2 half crystals. Even if you use something that takes a half crystal or is efficient, it doesn't matter once you're down to halves anyway. Excuse me. We'll jolt you, and then we should be able to finish them off. Something that is really funny, I think, that I have only taken advantage of once is if you have a character and you don't want to pass or whatever for whatever reason. Sometimes passing takes a full crystal, and with battle modifiers, you can actually attack the weakness of a corpse to use your turn and only use a half crystal. It's pretty situational, but it is something that I've had to do at least once on some of the later floors where um, passing takes a full turn. And we'll just keep hitting this fairy until we can, or pixie until we can get them. I could just steal the heals and put them on my main character, which would be nice, because everyone in your party can be switched out except for Zindra, who has to stay for obvious reasons, like they have to be able to die in order for you to lose. But in the previous build, I didn't have tech, so I actually couldn't use any heals. And I think having Zindra be my healer would probably be better than relying on the Pixie, which is pretty weak, honestly. So what do we have right now? We got room. When you deal lightning damage, half that amount is restored as HP. Oh, that's the passive I grabbed earlier. And then what is the Plague Bat? It's my, like, debuffer. Bounty Hunter, I'm not super in love with. They do have a heal, which is nice. I wouldn't be mad about replacing them. Remove all their bleed. I think let's go ahead and butcher the fairy and steal Stitch. I'll make my main character an off healer. Why not? Bloodstain battle. Ooh. Let's do that. I do like, you can just, the only requirement to progress from area to area is to kill an elite, which unlocks the mid-boss. You kill the mid-boss, and then that unlocks the boss. So those are the only 3 required battles, and then however many battles to get to them. But I do like to do every battle, at least initially, to like build up a team. And there are some really good enemies on this team. I actually had all 4 of these on my team for the previous run. The Infuser is so good. The Magma Trooper is basically just a fire elemental. The Luna Sage is an ice magic character. Kokoro, I think... what did they do? They're magic, and I think they have a heal. Yeah, they can sacrifice themselves to heal. That's what Bloodstain battles are. It's your last run's team. Oh, that makes sense, because these are all the people I had. It's hard to choose. I guess look at my team and what we need. So we have a Flame Tongue, so we don't really need Magma Trooper. Infuser basically just... gives potential to your other team members. They have an attack. They're a lightning attacker, but their main thing is getting your other characters boosted to their max level as soon as possible. I do think I don't need Kokoro or Magma Trooper, so I'm between Luna Sage and Infuser. I think we go for Luna Sage because I don't have any ice damage whatsoever, so that's who we're gonna go for. Thankfully I know all of their weaknesses, and I want to kill the Infuser as fast as possible. Infuser and Kokoro, so this one can revive, I believe. They can heal, so I'll kill them first. And they are weak to ice. I do not have any of, fortunately. Weak to electric, but you're actually who I want. Fire damage. This will at least get rid of her. Oh, they're null it. Okay. We can bleed them. Let's just burn some people. Unfortunately, we could have probably killed Kokoro, but they were guarding, so they were taking half damage. Regardless, they have that heal, so I wanted to get them below 15 as fast as possible, which we did, thankfully. Deal 8 damage and shock them. Deal 3 damage. So we want to do that. What else? And we'll hunt them to just get rid of the corpse. Oh, they keep reviving. Sometimes there's mechanics that because some battles have modifiers, and I don't know everything about the game. So sometimes there's mechanics going on that I'm just not aware of. So one of these passives, you'll fire damage. 5 piercing fire damage to yourself and revive with 10 HP. Okay. Oof. I thought Hunt would kill them, though. I guess not. I thought Hunt would nullify this because they weren't going to be a corpse. I guess that's not how that works. That's fine. We might end up with Kokoro then. I'll start working on killing Infuser. They're weak to a lot of the damage that we have. Burn all units and progress their burn. So let's go ahead with the burn and enrage, and then burn everyone, which for Magma Trooper doesn't matter. They're immune to fire. Yeah, typically, from what I've seen, Hunt normally bypasses these like death mechanics, but I guess not always. Jolt, so they're null to this. We can't shock them, which is efficient. And gets rid of their protect, which I was not aware of, which is super nice. Alright, we got some strong attacks now. The efficient stuff is really where it's at. Efficient innate, deal 4 fire damage to an enemy 2 times. We also have deal 15 damage. Inflame, and then let's Phoenix Blast with the combo. Nice, they're down. If we keep Kokoro below 15, they shouldn't be able to use Soul Split. Revive all ally corpses with 2 HP. Oof. This is why I wanted to kill them, like, immediately, but they're just so strong, which is why I had them on my team. They're one of the later, at least I encountered them on, like, floor 3 as, like, a mid-boss. Let's heal some people, which is why I grabbed Stitch. Expose, which doesn't really matter because nobody does ice. Get everyone up at least above 20. And then we'll start working on bleeding and decaying this one. Fully burn. Yeah. Burn all units. Unfortunately, this character isn't super useful, so I'm going to pass the turn, at least for killing Magma Trooper. Who's kind of our main focus right now. I do really want Luna Sage. We'll just use this. We're building up bleed right now. So for debuffs, they have their standard effects. For instance, bleed does 1 physical damage per turn. But once you get a debuff to a stack of 3, they're fully whatever that is. So they're fully bleeding, fully bracing or whatever, which makes the debuff or buff stronger. Which is nice. So like for fully bleeding, anytime you take damage, you also take bleed damage. We'll go ahead and do this. So Bounty Hunter's dead, unfortunately. We can... I don't think anyone has a revive, do they? Fully burn. I can't zombie anybody. Can I? No, I cannot. I thought I had somebody that could zombie, but... so let's go ahead and heal. The Plague Bat, I want to keep as many of my people alive as possible. All right, they're at full bleed. Burn and enrage an enemy. Yeah, see, they're fully enraged, so they do take more damage. I'm going to put a little bit of health on my main character here. What are they weak to? They're weak to gouge or pierce. I'm glad I made my character a healer. Having the pixie would have been nice here with someone dead. I wanted to use something efficient, but let's just pass and then finish them off with... Looks like we're going to have to use Voltic Shock. Things are getting rough. I can't finally kill Magma Trooper. Okay. I'm going to burn and heal Flame Tongue. So I can technically flee whenever I want. You do have to sacrifice an ally to flee, which makes it very, like, if you need it, it's worth it, but it can be scary to use for sure. Just keep healing. Once you're fully burned, I'll stay that way for a couple turns, so like just healing somebody that's fully burned is kind of whatever. Like at this point, it's basically just a heal for them. Voltic Shock. See if we can't finally take out this enemy here and start healing. This one I just need to keep healing. Otherwise our main character is gonna die. This might be it for us. I think we have to run. We'll sacrifice Plague Bat. That's rough. So we do have the hearse, which is pretty nice. So the way that the hearse works is you can actually basically swap out somebody that you have for somebody that's dead. And I believe this counts like from all runs. So like Blood Soldier, Infuser, Magma Trooper. These are all people I had in my last run. And the Bounty Hunter obviously just died. Plague Bat I sacrificed, so they didn't technically die, I guess, which is why we don't have them. I actually might swap out Flame Tongue for maybe Infuser. Like I said, it's pretty dope. Because I actually I don't like Flame Tongue. Let's do some common battles to build our team back up. There's like nothing we can do about like this one enemy. This is just who we're going to get. Thankfully, they're weak to lightning. But as you can see, it can be pretty rough. We should be able to just take them out like immediately. What did they do? They can sicken. I think they're another debuff heavy person. Fully decay. Enrage yourself, which is basically like plus attack minus defense. When your team's round start, fully sicken a random enemy. If you were sick. So I can sicken myself to sicken other people, which is cool. Fully decay a corpse and sicken all enemies. This is actually my first time seeing one of these emergency calamities. I believe they're just like random battles that pop up, and some of these like open areas, like these things that are nothing, can become emergency battles. It looks like they strengthen nearby enemies, and they give you awakened souls, which you can use to purchase upgrades. So I want to kill them eventually. I could also go back to the hearse and swap out this anti-masker for somebody else if I wanted, which I might do. But actually, I put... So this is another really cool thing. They spawn on things that aren't open, so if you spawn too many, you can lose the hearse and the grand. Ooh, I did not know that. This is probably my favorite thing, is you can actually come to this bar, which is I believe always on the first floor, and drop off people, like allies that you don't like. Like all these people like were just on my team and I didn't like them, or like they didn't fit the build, but I didn't want to like butcher them for a skill because I didn't need anything, and I don't want to abandon anybody. So you put them on your team and then you bring them here, and you can actually bring them on other runs, which is so useful because I need a team so bad right now. I was actually trying to find this because Idra is super good. The Valkyrie captain is actually a boss that I killed. Idra is basically just like an insanely strong lightning character. You can see like they make somebody absorb lightning. They have like super strong lightning attacks, but it requires like their attacks require a lot of potential, which is why Idra is really useful with the Infuser, who boosts potential. That's like pretty much their whole job, is to just keep boosting potential. Blade Freak is like a super bleed heavy character. Bleed and maim. Nice combo. Yeah, Idra Infuser is so good, especially once you start getting these like boss characters like Indra or any of the other ones. I fought a couple, I just don't remember their names. But probably Infuser's probably my favorite like support character that I've seen so far. Valkyrie is like a really weird... I haven't used them yet. They have this... They have like a summon mechanic where they can summon a recruit. It's basically just like a weaker version of them. But they can also kill an ally to deal damage to everyone else. And as a boss, they're super annoying because they can do it to corpses. So I saw them and I was like, oh, I should probably kill the ads first. But no, killing the ads doesn't matter for their fight. You actually have to kill them. Ripjaw, I think, is just like very physical. They do a bunch of stuff. Bleed, trauma. Pierce, which just negates resistance, protect, defense, anything like that. It's nice to have on an ally that can only do one type of damage. But Bleed and Maim are pretty good stacked together. Especially with Blade Freak, who has a passive whenever an enemy takes damage over time, so bleed, shock, whatever, they also take damage for each maim on them, which is just insane if you have like a bleed heavy team, which I did. I had them in a blood soldier, which is also super bleed heavy, but they were... Actually, I might leave them here for later. Anti-Masker, what do you do? Do I want to keep you? I got you for reasons. Actually, I think I'm going to go swap them out for someone in the hearse. A drink you can trade. I don't know what the Grand Brew does. I kind of want to get it. Get one potential you have 4 more of. I think I'm going to go for the Grand Brew. Oh, okay, so it's early access. Never mind. Like I said earlier, this game is early access, so there's a lot of stuff that is mentioned but isn't implemented yet. Like there's a mantra system that's talked about in the like character builder. It's like one of the things you can buy, but it's not like available right now basically. Magma Trooper rocks, so I'm actually gonna do this. We have a pretty solid team now. I went from like literally no people to like a pretty good team. Let's take on this boss. Biswalker. Very ice. Revive an ally with 1 HP and summon an Abysswalker. Another thing that I really like is the abduct mechanic always works. You can do it on bosses. Any fight, you can get a character from it. Alright, they resist shock and they heal from ice, which is not super good. Because my team is very shock oriented right now, unfortunately. Let's potentiate Magma Trooper because they're just better. As soon as they get to 3. Cerberus is a useful attack, but it just costs. I'm probably going to use that a lot, actually, since it's just pretty much going to be useless this fight. They have Pierce, but it's going to take a while to get there. Let's go ahead and start burning and enraging. We'll just keep doing this. I want to enrage a unit, fully progress, focus on them. Do this as fast as possible for the most part. They do ice, so the ultimate doesn't really matter. Ultimates can only be used once per fight. Potentiate yourself 2 times and fully shock. That's fine. Are they immune to shock? No, I can. So I'll use this on them actually, which is how their boss fight goes. Where they make themselves immune to shock and then they shock themselves. And killing Idra was a whole trial. They killed almost my entire team. Max out this shock. I think I'm going to use my ult on Magma Trooper. They're dead now. Alright, and then we just kind of want to Cerberus them to death. They're resistant to fire, too. Oof. This is a rough one. I still think we Cerberus here, but I don't know if we can win this. This might be it for the run. Yeah, because we don't have anyone that can revive, and we don't... I guess we have the Valkyrie Captain we can bring in, and I wonder if I can bring Idra out. Okay, so now we can make use of their summon ability. I do think Magma Trooper is going to die, unfortunately. Jesus. So much damage. Some fights, like, you just get wailed on by the enemies. So I just have to keep our character from dying? Oh, wow. Okay, so the captain's dead. Yeah. There's no way we're going to win this with a summon. Yeah, and they're immune to ice. That's it. That's probably the run. Yeah. Might as well just pass and let them finish us off. Oh, but we can reflect ice. That's really funny. Like, what a stalemate. Like, all of their attacks are ice. And can we even deal damage to them? We can freeze them, but that does ice damage. Invigorate 2 allies. Gain in HP. This is a weird position to be in. I guess they can still kill if they kill our corpse, that's still the end of the run, but this is a very odd place to sit. We're the only character we have alive. Reflects their damage, but that also heals them. I guess we could flee again. I think if we flee, I think I can sacrifice the recruit, right? No, it has to be one of my actual allies. Well, I think we just call it here and just try a different run. We'll just go. I wonder if restart, abandon your run. Yeah, that was rough. So my second run went pretty well, but this game can be pretty hard. Like I said, if you don't know the mechanics, I wanted to, I guess, restart this run. We can go ahead and get our items. You can definitely get blindsided. I've noticed that you want to have a pretty spread out attack range within your team. So you want to be able to hit pretty much any weakness. We just got... I think the only thing that I didn't cover was physical. And I had like an off gun attack. But those enemies were just like a hard wall to the few people I had on my team. Which happens sometimes. But now we can buy another build. The one I was looking at like off stream was Power Bottom, which is like a lifesteal oriented build, which I really want to check out. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock it now. But I did just want to do the one run to show this game off. It's a lot of fun. It's very addicting. I really want to do another run. I just have other games that I have to show off. But totally worth it. Again, this is Malice and Greed. It's an early access game with a lot of potential. It does take... There's so many mechanics. The tutorial is pretty long compared to like other games, like relatively. But because of that, like the tutorial, you really need it to be that long because there's so much going on. But all of the mechanics, I think, are really well done. Like, there's a lot to take advantage of. Like, there's a lot of statuses that you could, like, read and be overwhelmed. You know, freeze, bleed, shock, all that. But you can just kind of think of those all as, like, damage over time stuff or things that are debuffs, buffs for your team. There's a lot of little bits that are basically like a bigger set of things. And once I started thinking about it like that, this game made a lot more sense to me. And it was easier to build a good team once I got up and going. But we just ran into a couple hard walls while I was still trying to build my team there, which happens, you know. Sometimes luck just isn't in your favor, which is another aspect to these roguelike games. Like, you could be wanting to build a certain type of team because you like playing that and just not get anything you need. But a really well-made game. I love all the art. It's really fun to play. And I would definitely recommend it. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you in the next video and have a good day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are.